Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be back on this live today. As you can tell, I'm in a different spot this time. So I am driving and doing errands, and you just do what you do here. So excited to talk to you guys again today, and excuse me, have people join the conversation either now or in the future by letting me know, if you're here to, drop a line, and then if you are watching this later as a replay. So just want to share a few things that have shown up for me, and it's pretty exciting, kind of my journey and a little bit of where things are going and what I see for us as a community that we're creating here. So couple things. There was a very interesting question that showed up yesterday that I wanted to really share about because it actually gives us context about what I want to talk about afterwards. So there was a question that someone had asked about when I had talked about being in the zone and that being a way to know that that's where I'm loving myself and where I'm in alignment with my design. And so what I want to share a little bit is kind of the story of where we're going to get into today. So as you guys know, so let me just talk about the zone first. So the zone is kind of this idea or this feeling that we've probably all felt when we're doing something that we absolutely love and we look up and it's been 5 hours later. It could be a conversation with a dear friend where you just feel like you're completely connected and it's the conversation you need to have. There's something they were sharing or you were sharing that was just exactly what needed to be said at that point. People talk about being in the zone when they're running because it's very much something that really makes them feel connected to themselves. People will say the same thing about art. I would say the same thing in my career in different places. I've been a project manager and change management and just various corporate things for a very long time. And so there are times and spaces where I've just felt like completely where I needed to be. And the way that I know that is that things just flow. Time passes without realizing it. Things seem to just show up at the right time for the right thing. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but it happens, besides the one I'm going to share in just a little bit. But it just is something where you're just like, oh, I've been thinking about this topic, and now all of a sudden this topic is showing up everywhere. My friends are talking about it. I ran across a YouTube video about it, like, okay, well, that's crazy. Or I've been wondering about this one thing, and now, like, I'm feeling inspired, about it, etc. And so what I want to share a little bit is something that's showing up for me right now, which is that, and when I use the phrasing like showing up for me, that means like something that's coming across my mind, something that is that I'm noticing, right? Something that is, maybe I'm feeling inspired by when I'm in meditation or something like that. Just showing up for me just means like something that's coming to my heart space for some particular reason. So what I'm noticing right now is that I mentioned at the beginning of this week, I started a Clubhouse series on self-love, right? And Scarlett and I, who I've introduced and talked about before, we've been talking about that for like a month before, and then both of us got busy, and then we finally came back to it. And both of us totally believe that when it's supposed to happen, it will. And so we weren't like, oh, we should have done this before. We just kind of went, okay, here we are. So we started that, and then I felt really inspired and drawn to start sharing with you guys on the live, just about certain terminology so you guys would understand a little bit. Start the conversation, because I feel like these are conversations, right? Even when you guys are joining me later on a replay, and you're making comments, it is a back and forth, even if, right now I'm just monologuing, right? So all of that was happening, and then every time I was on a live, I'm like, there's something more about self-love. I'm like, okay, well, this feels like a central thing. Let's keep going with this. And then I've been toying with the idea of doing, of sharing with you guys kind of like a fun thing in this space, which was going to be, basically kind of a 7-day challenge or like a challenge of some sort, to, share some of my thinkings, and, basically inspirational things that people would get in their inboxes like every day for a couple of days, whatever, that kind of thing, and just kind of like just have a space to focus on those. And so what I ended up, and I was like, okay, that sounds interesting, but like that's cool. And then I realized the materials that I wanted to share with you, of course they do, but I wasn't thinking about it this way. All ended up being about self-love. So now I'm like, okay, well, let's do a challenge then about where there's this, inspirational things that would be, popping into all of us, all of our inboxes, whoever wants to join this, and to be really feeling connected with that topic in a different way. So I was thinking about that this morning, and then I was like, oh yes, this totally makes sense. So it's gotten me, thinking a lot about how things just flow when we listen to it. I've had various thoughts about, okay, what do I want to share with this community at different times, and what do I want to talk about? And I'll have a plan, and then when I actually get to the thing, then it's like maybe the spirit's moving me in a different way. And I think that's probably something that's really important for us to think about in this idea of self-love, which is that, and it gets to two other topics that I wanted to share today that the book talks about as well, and it's in the title of the book, which is Truth and Purpose. So what I talk about, as you know, the title is Follow Your Design, Rediscovering Your Truth and Your Purpose. And I say rediscovering because I think that many of us knew what we liked to do, what our interests were, how we were in the world when we were younger, children. And then at some point, we were, maybe you wanted to be an artist, and someone in your family said, no, to be a doctor or an accountant, or make sure you make money, and then you kind of didn't do that thing, or you're always with someone who liked to organize things, but you never really understood that could be a career, so you ended up doing something different. Who knows? I'm making up examples here. But the idea here is that we've always known who we are from the beginning, and somehow in the middle of it we lost our way, or stayed on that direction of our design, but a little bit here or there, kind of lost the track. And then there's some of us who have followed it the entire time, which is also wonderful. And so one of the things that I want to talk about with why I use the word truth and purpose is I believe that all of us have both of those aspects. I see a truth as our understanding of ourselves, of who we are, how we are in the world. So, am I an introspective person, or am I an exuberant person? Am I someone who, loves to make connections between people, or do I like to design things? Am I drawn to, for instance, nature, or am I drawn to architecture? I'm just, you get the idea. I'm giving a gamut of things. And these aren't what you do in the world. This is just the things that light you up for whatever reason, right? So that's your truth. And your truth is very much has kind of a feeling of like a flow energy. It's really just like you can just kind of be there and let it be and see what happens, and you just always are that no matter what. And then I see our purpose as kind of the trajectory of how to channel that truth into what we want to do in the world. So if you, for instance, if you always noticed that you were attracted to architecture, or like buildings and things like that, then potentially like you could then be an architect, right? If you always noticed that you were, attracted to, or always have been attracted to, natural beauty, then potentially you try to figure out a way to, your purpose would be to engage with that, or have other people engage, or natural, conservation efforts, whatever. So the being part and the doing part is super important, right? So the being part being the truth, and the doing part being the purpose. And melding both of those in a society that tells us pretty much the only thing that's important is what we do is super, super important. Because what I find is that I could easily, wake up every morning and say, okay, I've got these tasks, and we all do this. I'm not saying I could easily do it. I do it, right? We all do this. I have all these tasks I want to get done. Let's make sure these things happen. Okay, maybe I'm stressed while I'm doing them. Maybe I'm irritable. Maybe it makes me short with my daughter. Maybe all these things, but whatever, because I've got to get my tasks done, right? That's a very common mentality to have is that idea of just like, you just got to get done, do, and kind of barreling through. And don't get me wrong, it's still important to be productive. But there's a certain point, I think, where we've a bit lost track of the fact that it's also who I am. So if I show up with my daughter as short, then I'm not being the mother I want to be with her in that moment. If I'm showing up with my coworkers or my friends in a way where they're just getting stress from me and they might be getting more stressed being around me, that's not who I want to be with them. Even if I got all my to-do list, my items on my to-do list done, was that, yes, so you were productive, but were you really who you wanted to be with people, right? And so that's, some of the conversation here is looking at that. And it's also knowing, so adding into that is also knowing, not only how am I being, but getting back to self-love, how am I being with me? So like yesterday, we talked a lot about this idea of beating ourselves up when we don't get things done, or being our worst critic. So if we reflect and we say, well, I'm not the person I want to be with myself as well. I know in the past for me, I would only really worry if I was impacting other people if I was in a bad mood. I didn't really think about myself. But now I'm noticing, well, wait a second. I want to be the best person for myself as well. Hi, Femi. Hi, Burton. Welcome. I want to be that right person, that best person for myself, because I love myself. Just like I want to show up the best way I can for my daughter because I love her. And so we end up kind of in this conversation here. And I think one of the pieces about that is something that links back to what I was mentioning earlier at the beginning of the call about really being looking at kind of a self-love challenge and trying to like give ourselves space to think more about this. So one of the ways that I find that I'm able to really be who I need for myself is to ground myself. So I want to describe what I mean by this term. So what it means to ground oneself, this is my understanding of it as I'm still learning it, and I'm sure others can add to this as well. It means to feel, so we can kind of think about the difference between the energy of like running around everywhere, being like, okay, I got things to do, and you can kind of hear in my voice, I'm kind of speaking loud, speaking quickly, and kind of breathlessly, and you can't tell it, but I can tell that my breath feels like it's coming from here, like it's very like, right? Versus like I'm sitting here with you guys, and I'm calm, and again, you can't tell, but I can tell that in my body, my breath is coming from much lower, right? And so being grounded is this ability to move our breath from being very short to being closer down into our body, and being more calm and relaxed. And the reason why all of this is important, why it's important to ground, and I'll actually walk us through an example of doing some grounding together, is because when we ground, that's where we can connect with our higher self, our noble self. Because our noble self lives in our body and lives in our heart. Whereas, and many different philosophers and thinkers will agree with this, the ego, and when I say lives, it's an energetic thing, of course, but where the ego kind of tends to be in the head, tends to be in our mind. And so what we're trying to do is, and I've heard this as well, is I've even heard people talk about like bowing our heads to our heart. So basically the idea of moving wherever our thinking pattern might be, which is going to be our ego, and having that then say, wait, hold on, no, I want to hear what my heart says. I want to hear what my higher self, my noble self is saying. And so being able to ground allows you to kind of pull into that part of you, your heart center. So what I want to do is a simple kind of grounding exercise that we can all do together. So those who are watching now or those who are join the replay can kind of follow along with this. For those of you guys who might be semi-familiar with either mindfulness or meditation, what I'm about to do might feel similar to that as well. And basically, it's allowing yourself the space to listen to yourself. So, so with that, for those on the call and those joining the replay later, what I'd like to do to kind of walk you through this grounding is to have all of us close our eyes, and I'm going to do the same thing. So if anyone joins while my eyes are closed, I apologize in advance. I will say hello when I get back on. So let's all close our eyes together. And so in the space of closing our eyes, what is really important is to understand two or three things. One is I want you to, with your eyes closed, feel where, and just kind of remembering where the walls are in the room that you're in, and notice how close or far away you are from them. In my case, of course, it's a car, so I'm actually picturing, this door here and then the other side of the car. And then picturing or feeling, okay, how far is the ceiling from my head, and can I feel my feet on the floor? So it's just a moment to take ourselves into noticing our bodies in the space of the room we're in a society that tells us that we mostly should be thinking and really only paying attention to our head. So this is just noticing where we're sitting and where we are. And then just taking a moment to feel where our bodies are sitting on the chair that we're in, or the couch or the bed, or standing wherever you might be. Just noticing that. And then once you've done that, drawing your attention now to your breath. So we're just going to do the simple grounding of just breathing together 3 times. And this is literally all it is that you need to do to ground yourself. So this is quite simple. There are other things one can do, but this will get you to the simple version of this. So we're going to breathe together. So let's breathe together in and then out, and then in and then out, and then one last time together, in and out. And what you should notice at this point, not should, because that makes now judgment, what you may notice at this point is just a calmness. And this is where, when you practice doing this on a daily basis, you can start to hear over time and listen to your noble self. Because this is where he or she or they, gender-wise, is located. And they're just, waiting for you to come and to listen to them. So we can go ahead and open our eyes at this point, because what I just wanted to do is share with you just the simplicity of that, and share with you then a little bit more about the self-love challenge that I mentioned at the beginning of the call. What I will be offering is, for anyone who would like to join starting May 1st, that there will be a series of recordings that will be mailed to your email at the first day of 7 days in a row. The beginning of the day of 7 days in a row. I can figure out how to explain this. And I plan to send it at 5 a.m. because I know some of you guys are early birds, so that every morning when you wake up, whatever time that might be, you'll have an email. We'll have a recording of some thoughts, some musings on self-love themselves. And then at the end of each of them is a grounding exercise. So this is why I wanted to talk about grounding, so you know what it is I'm talking about when I ask you to do that. Each of the grounding exercises will be fairly simple. They are not long, but they do allow for a little bit of a guided space. While you listen to the recording, you can be doing, whatever that's asking. And then I ask that you stay in whatever calmness you've created to listen, to see what shows up there, to see if there's any ideas or thoughts or emotions or whatever that your inner self, your noble self, wants to tell you. Because remember, the whole point here is we're trying to connect back with who that is, for them to be able to give us better and clearer guidance on, our own design and where we're going. And the design being, either what we do today or what we do longer term and like our calling and our lives. But either way, getting guidance from our noble selves, which is coming from a place of abundance, versus our ego selves, which believe in scarcity and fear. Abundance and joy is a much a much calmer place to decide how to act and be in the world. So, so those are the things I wanted to share with you. What I'm going to be doing is posting in just a little bit. You'll see a post about how to sign up for the 7-day self-love challenge. It's completely free, and I'm really excited to see who wants to join. Signing up for it basically means you'll get these emails, and then take time every day to do the exercise. Potentially, you could see this. You could use this as a reset. You could use this as whatever you want. I am offering it on May 1st for us all to do it together, but it'll be available in general if you want to join later or do it separately or whatever it might be. And then my goal is that every day I will just post a reflection question for each day, so people can kind of respond. Yeah, when I did this grounding, it made me think of this or whatever. And then just to make it a challenge, to make it kind of fun for whoever wants to participate, what I'd like to do is for those who end up responding to the reflection question for each day, so all 7 days, entered to win a prize. So just making this kind of fun here, and so they're pretty basic, but I think they're kind of fun. So the drawing would be for the first prize drawing. This is kind of silly and fun all at the same time. Would be for a one-on-one coaching session with me, should you want one, of course. The second prize would be for one of the Zoom courses that I've talked about before. I mentioned, I think, on Monday, a little teaser about that, that we're going to be offering a class on what we were just talking about, actually, which is who's talking, discerning between the noble self and the shadow self. So who's speaking to me at this moment. And so that course will be available May 13. I'm going to I'll share more about that in the future, but just so you know, so one person could win that, that 1-day course. It's a 1.5-hour Zoom session. And then the last prize is something silly, which is just a $20 gift card, Visa gift card. So just, a little fun here, see if people want to participate. There's no requirement that anyone does or that everyone does. But if you do feel inspired to have a self-love reset, through this challenge or participate in this all together, we'd love to have you, and we'll make it a kind of a fun experience. So let's see if there's anything else that I was hoping to share today. No, I don't think so. But I know, Burton, you joined a little bit later, and your question earlier had been on flow. So once this posts, you'll notice at the beginning I do talk a little bit about that. Actually, you asked about zone specifically, being in the zone, and how that feels like everything is flowing. So if you weren't here at the very beginning, though you may have been, and everyone, go back and listen to the beginning, and you'll get some of your answers your answers questioned. No, you will get your questions answered. And then we'll go from there. So I look forward to hearing from everybody in the replay. Those on here, do you guys have any questions? Those of you guys who have been able to join today, I'm assuming you would have shared at this point if you did, but I'll give you a couple of minutes on that. And then, like I said, for anyone on the replay, please do ask questions, and you'll see more information about the Self-Love Challenge being posted soon. And thank you, Corinne, for posting about the book as well, because a lot of what I've just talked about in terms of truth and purpose, noble self, shadow self, it's all the way through the book as well. So if you're new to us or haven't yet purchased it and you feel drawn to it, then do go ahead. But if not, there's no requirements, by the way, that you ever purchase the book. You could just join this group and have fun and listen to the conversations and do whatever you need to. So no purchase necessary, as they would say. So appreciate you guys all being here today, and look forward to hearing responses. And as I said before, I'm going to continue to do this conversation every day this week at 2 p.m. So looking forward to the next time talking to you guys. Take care.